Hello, everyone out there on the interwebs. Um, well, it's been a pretty busy month actually. I've actually gone through a lot over the past couple of weeks and done some pretty odd things, and yeah, just haven't kept up with what I intended or what I wanted to do with this channel, and unfortunately, there's not much I can do about it at the moment. Situations have come up, things have happened where been a little too busy with this, a little too busy with that. My friend who I had intended to help me do an interview has been too busy and had to move and different situations, and so I've not been able to make the video that I wanted to make of telling you guys who I am and why you should actually want to listen to me and my opinions on what this channel is. So, to give you a little rundown of who I am, I've been a Michigan slash Indiana resident for the past 30 some years. Was born in Michigan, raised in Michigan, moved to Indiana for high school. My first attempt at college, I went out to Pittsburgh, lived in Pittsburgh for 7 months, going to school out there. In my younger youth, for a couple months, I lived in Omaha, Nebraska for a while. Um, After college didn't work out, I came back to Michigan. I met my wife at the time, got married, had 2 children, got a divorce, decided, I needed to do something with my life. There wasn't really much for me here in this town to help financially. So I decided to join the military as a way to, help better myself, have money to provide for my children. And after about 6 months in the military, I broke my ankle and spent 18 months on limited duty making ID cards, and that was the extent of my time in the Navy. I got all my training done. I was supposed to be electronics technician, navigations. I learned course plotting. I learned electronics. I, learned all the military aspects of the Navy, but never actually got to utilize them. Never got to go to sea. Never actually got to get on a submarine, which is what I was supposed to do. So it was a little disappointing, but I still learned a lot, and the experience of working for the federal government and basically all the things that I learned from the inside is what almost started my activism. About 2 years ago or so, I've basically been floating around for the past 5 years ever since I got discharged. They medically discharged me in October 31st of 2008, and so since then I've been all over the place. I moved back to Fort Wayne for a while, was living there trying to go to college. I started taking theater program. I've been acting my whole life. I've done almost 30 shows now. I have a new show coming up March 21st and 22nd, which right now I just started college again too. So in between college classes, doing the rehearsals for the show, I'm also going to be trying to work on this channel. So that's why my time's been so eaten up lately. So anyway, I've had the theater background, everything with the military. I decided to get out and use my GI Bill money to try to go back to college, and started in on a theater degree at IPFW in Fort Wayne. Um, Life is the only best way I can put it is life got in the way for me, and I, got into a relationship with a woman that I loved, and decided to drop out of school because I had gotten really depressed at the time. I really didn't feel like I was doing enough with my life that I should have, and so the classes didn't work out well enough. I was, depressed and just, sleeping more than I should have been, and it got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore and became suicidal, and actually spent 5 days in a VA mental health facility, no shoelaces, all that fun stuff. And that was an eye-opening experience for me, because as much as, I've been trying to find purpose for my life and actually to do something with my life, being in there and seeing the people that were completely just mentally disturbed, mentally troubled, people that had been living there for 20 some years because they had gotten so messed up from, the Vietnam War and different aspects of their military career, that it's like, what am I complaining about? But at the same time, I still didn't feel like I was doing much of anything. So I moved again, moved in with, my girlfriend at the time. She helped to take care of me and help me get through that rough patch. Unfortunately, things didn't work out for us, and after living with her for 2 months, I moved and had a friend from the military that was living in South Carolina. So I went there and stayed with him for 7 months. to then come back to Indiana so I could be closer to my children. Started college again for a business degree, and then again, life got in the way. And my ex-wife asked me to come move back up to Michigan to help her out with the finances to make sure that she had a place for my children to live. So I dropped out of school for the third time, went up to Michigan, and after about 4 or 5 months, the situation really didn't work out well. So I moved again, back to Fort Wayne. Was living with a friend for a couple months in Fort Wayne, and that didn't work out well. And so then I got, back up here to Michigan again. So back in Michigan, moved, bumped around. I want to say the laundry list goes over 30 times that I've moved in my life. I've almost considered myself more of a gypsy than anything else. And yet at the same time, I keep returning to the hometown that I was raised in. And it's where my ex-wife and kids live, and so it's where I am at the moment. Are there better places I'd like to be? Sure, but this is where life has taken me right now. So, throughout all this, I decided I wanted to start a spiritual journey. That's the best way I can describe it. And when I had moved up to Michigan was living with my ex-wife and her girlfriend at the time, I decided, hey, I want to know the truth of life. And I myself, I am a firm believer that there is a higher power. I've studied tons and tons of the different religions out there. I was raised Christian my whole life, went to Lutheran schools, had, Lutheran and Catholic parents. And so that was a lot of my indoctrination, a lot of my upbringing. And since then, and becoming an adult, experiencing life, traveling the United States, I just started to see that, it seems like there's more, there's a bigger picture. But at the same time, with everything that I've seen, with everything that I've experienced, I can't deny that there isn't a higher power. Now, is that, technically, Yahweh, the God of the Bible? Is that, some other spiritual entity? It's hard to tell. I think a lot of what the Catholic Bible that's been canonized, and this is just my belief system, is, I don't, how to put it, too much of man's hand put in it. There's a lot of Christians out there that believe it's the inherent word of God, and that it was God passing down his knowledge to man and man writing God's, thoughts. But I think a lot of what the choices that Catholicism, took to canonize the Bible for what it is, with the apocryphal texts out there, with all the different writings that have been found, I've started to research and look into Kabbalah and all the different writings of that there's a much bigger wealth of information as to what, God is, what the universe is, what this higher power is. So through the spiritual journey I started, I asked for truth, and I started seeing life a lot differently than what I had for the past, 33 years of my life. And a lot of it came to that too, as I was turning 33, and I was like, look at what Christ had accomplished in his life. Even if you believe Christ is the Son of God, or if you don't believe Christ is the Son of God, the message that Christ gave of love, to humanity is a wonderful message. And just at 33 years old, he gave up his life, out of love for humanity. And for me, I was looking at, I'm turning 33, and what have I done with my life? What have I done to make an impact on humanity? Because I've always felt that, I've always had that desire in me that I want to reach the world, that there's something that I have just a heart for everybody. I see humanity the way it is, and I think it's this horrible delusion, an illusion that we're living in, and that life can be so much better, life can be so different than what it is. And it's until the rest of humanity wakes up, until the rest of humanity actually looks at the background of what's going on and not just living their own little secluded life. When you start thinking outside the box, when you start looking outside the box, you start seeing the world for this bigger picture that it is. So through all that spiritual journey, it led me into politics. And once you start going in depth to research everything of information that there is, when you start looking at the history of how this world's been functioning and running, you start to see how the two are hand in hand. The two that people always talk about, you should never discuss politics and religion. Politics and religion go hand in hand, and most people don't realize that. And so through my looking and searching for truth, through my studying of spirituality and religion, I got into the politics side of things. And through my experience with the military and working for the federal government, and dealing with the hassle of them over the past 5 years with my temporary disability and everything that I've had to go through, it's just there's so much more out there that people don't see, people don't realize. And so that's why, once I started looking into what Occupy Wall Street was doing, I was intrigued. And then Anonymous came about and what Anonymous started doing, and almost how Anonymous has taken over from what Occupy Wall Street has been. And I saw all these people finally standing up and saying, hey, one individual voice can make a difference, one individual voice can make a change. And so that is what I'm trying to do. I'm just one individual that, yes, I'm a 3-time college dropout, trying for my 4th time now to finally get a degree. For my mentality, it's hard for me to sit through classes. It's hard for me to sit through indoctrination. There's no more, it almost seems like there's no more learning in school anymore. It's not, let's have an open discussion about, your thoughts and maybe something that can be different than what the textbook states. It's no. This is what, the textbook is written at. This is what we're going to teach you. This is how you should think about life. There's so much more out there that being boxed into that's been very difficult. So for me right now, I'm trying to take the time to finally say, I want to have that degree under my belt. The rest of the world looks at it as, some big fancy thing to have a college education. So even though I've probably college educated myself enough with all my research and stuff that I do on my own, it hasn't been through a structured course. It hasn't given me a piece of paper to put on the wall. And so that is what I'm attempting to do right now. So along with the politics, along with the activism, along with trying to open people's eyes, I'm trying to do so much to help humanity, and I'm hoping that it's not looking like I'm just being some, crazy guy out there by himself, but that, I'm being reasonable. I'm trying to just open people's eyes to what the world really is. And, some people can say I'm delusional, some people can say I'm crazy, so be it. Everybody has their own opinion, everybody has their own choice to, think how they want to think. But there's just so much deception out there in the world that most people don't realize what is really happening, what is really going on, and they don't take the time to look behind the curtain to see all the strings that are being pulled that actually affect their lives, even though they think, oh, well, as long as I'm happy and content, I'm okay by myself. So with my, past of, traveling around, meeting hundreds of thousands of people, being an actor, being in the military, just everything I've done, I hope that you'll take the time to actually listen to my thoughts, listen to my opinions, hear what I have to say. Sure, take it with a grain of salt. I'm perfectly fine with that. But I've always been on the point that, as long as I'm reaching one person, as long as I can possibly get one person to open up their mind, think differently, to realize that, hey, maybe there is a different possibility to how things can be, then, that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I just want. I want to see people be willing to say, maybe there is more to life, maybe there is more I can learn, and I just hope to help facilitate that. So again, my apologies that this channel hasn't gone the way that I've hoped and intended so far. I've been trying to keep up with, doing Facebook posts, and hopefully in the near future I'll start, doing these Wednesday blogs like I intended to do. I can get the interviews going like I wanted to. Mostly for me, a lot of it has been the budgeting of everything. I've been flat broke for 2.5 months, and using the GI Bill to go back to college has been the only thing that's helped to sustain me. And right now it's actually more beneficial to me to be going to college and than it would be to work a job. I receive more funds from the federal government for going to school than I would for working a 40-hour work week job. So I just hope that everybody out there is doing well. I hope that if you like what you hope to see here, give me any ideas that you have. Feel free to comment below. Feel free to tell me what you'd like to see. There's a lot of information that's out there. It's hard to decipher it all. It's hard to pin it all down to one exact thing to share at a time. But there's just so much that you need to know, so much more to the world that is being ignored, and that I hope you can see that. I hope that you'll come back, you'll watch the videos that I'll be producing throughout the rest of the year. I have the documentary that's coming up that I'm going to be making this summer with a friend of mine, and I hope that if you like the ideas for what this documentary is going to be, that you'll also be able to, you know, I'm looking at possibly doing some crowdsource funding for it down the road, as long as I have, the proof to show people that this is something that, is a story that the world would want to see, that independent music, being an artist, is something that you can ascertain in this world. With the World Wide Web now, philosophers, artists, there is a place for us in this world. It's not just all industry. It's not just all 40-hour work week job. It's not all factories. There are those of us out there that want to entertain and enlighten the world and not be, stuck in this conformity of society. So through this documentary of my friend Tom Karosik and his music and his life over the past 2 years, I hope to make a wonderful film to shop around to Sundance, South by Southwest, all the different, Tribeca, the festivals here in America, and, hopefully be able to get it nationally produced. But, this is just the stepping points that I'm taking off for this channel, for this production company, and what I'm hoping to be able to give to the world. And hopefully it'll all make a difference. Hopefully some people will be enlightened. Hopefully some people's minds might be changed. And that's not always a bad thing. So, peace to everybody out there, and I hope you're doing well. Thank you.